Yeah, I think we've all heard a version of this. When your why is big enough, the how doesn't matter. In essence, when your why is big enough, when why you want to do something is big enough, you'll figure out how to make it happen. By the way, I'm Dr. Russ Rosen, and I help natural healthcare providers like you thrive in a care versus scare true optimal health model. I was just speaking with one of my clients, and we had such a great conversation. I just jotted down a few notes and I wanted to share it with you. So we were having this conversation, and he was having a challenge telling the patient the truth about how much care the person needed. And he's always had this problem. So I asked him a question. I said, if your patient said to you, I have all the time in the world, I have all the money in the world, I trust you implicitly, I'll do whatever you say. I just want the best results I can possibly get. I just want to get as healthy as I can possibly get. I just don't want to just feel better or mask my symptoms. What would you recommend? What would you recommend to your average patient if they said that to you? I got all the time in the world, I got all the money in the world, I trust you implicitly. I'll do whatever you say. I want the best results possible. So it was very clear as I brought up this question that he'd never really thought this through before. And it's really true for so many of us. The truth is, he always just told people what he thought they wanted to hear or how much he thought they could afford. Does that sound familiar? So obviously, he recognized that this was a huge contradiction, and we dove into this to see if we could clean it up a bit. The next thing we talked about was in Pat Gentempo's Five Branches of Philosophy, he starts with the metaphysics, which is what do you know to be true? In essence, how much care do you know they actually really need? Well, he started stammering with, well, I don't know. I mean, everyone needs different care, blah, blah, blah. And I said, well, if this were you or it was a family member, a loved one, how much care would you want for them? Would you just work with them till they felt better and stop? Would you work with them until they were functioning better? Would you work with them until you've got them as healthy as you can get them and then continue working with them to keep them that way? Like, what would you really do for these people? Remember, they have all the money and time in the world and they trust you implicitly. So for you, I think it's really worth thinking this through. Person comes in, you get them to that point. What would you really recommend for that care for that person and why? I take my doctors through this process, but I think it's worth thinking through. We then looked at Dr. Gentempo's epistemology, which is how do you know that it's true? In his case, he's been practicing many years. He has ways of monitoring people closely to see if they're really moving along or not. He does very specific objective tests. So that's how he would know whether they were actually coming along or not. And then it gets to the ethics. The ethics is what am I going to do about this because I know it's true? Because I know it's true, how am I going to treat my patients? Will I just tell them what I think they want to hear? Will I just tell them, well, I think that you should do this much care because I think it's all you can afford or all you'll accept? Or do I really find out what the truth is and then tell them the truth? Now, in our world, we find out what they want in relationship to what we can truly do for them, show them how to have it. If they just want to feel better, far out, we'll show them how to have it. If they want to get as healthy as they can under our care, far out, we'll show them how to have it. But we've got to tell the truth. Okay, now I can tell you every doctor that I coach gets to the place where their patients are saying, at least 80% are saying, I want to get healthy and stay healthy. I really trust you. I want to do whatever it takes. Okay. So this is a very common occurrence when patients start saying that, doctors start having this challenge. So the real challenge comes up with, what do I do now? How do I figure out a reasonable care plan? Again, I walk my doctors through this of how to figure out a plan. How do I present it? I walk my doctors through it. It's really not what we're here to talk about today. And am I comfortable telling them the truth about what I would recommend? This many visits over this period of time. And here's why. This is what we should expect subjectively and objectively. And here's how much it's going to cost. Again, I've had doctors who are afraid to tell someone they need 3 visits and they're $30 a visit to doing $12,000 programs. Now, that doesn't happen overnight, but it is something that you can get to if you're telling your truth. If we clean up your headspace issues and procedural issues, I promise we can get you there. Okay, so in this particular case, the challenge came up as I kept asking him specific questions where he said, the real issue here is what might they think of me? If I tell them the truth of what I really think they need, what might they think of me? Are they going to think that I'm trying to rip them off? Are they going to think that I'm just about the money? And this is a very common one. Now, once we get to this place, I have a lot of different ways of dealing with the subconscious contradictions. I use neuro-emotional technique of Scott Walker. With my coaching clients, I use Byron Katie's the work from the book Loving What Is. I use all kinds of different strategies. In this particular case, what I did was I helped get to the why behind the how. So my favorite process of doing this is I walked him through this story. I said, and hopefully you've seen the picture here of the guy standing on the edge of a building looking down. So I asked him, I said, if there was a 1 foot wide, 10-foot board on the ground, would you walk across it? He said, sure. I said, if I put it up 6 inches, would you walk across it for $100? He said, sure. And I said, how about $1,000? He goes, sure. And I said, what if we bring it up 20 feet? Ooh, don't know. Don't know about that. Okay, what if I gave you $100,000? Okay, for $100,000, I think I would do it. Okay, so what if we got on top of a skyscraper? Okay, what if you're in a 100-story building and it is obvious clear death if you fall? Would you walk across it for $100,000? And he said, no. And I said, what about $1 million? And he said, no. I said, what about $100 million? He goes, okay, maybe. And I said, okay, now we're going to add that it's not 10 feet long, it's 20 feet long, and it's windy and rainy. For $100 million, will you walk across it? And he said, no. And I said, is there any amount of money I could offer you to walk across it? And he said, no. And I said, what if your child, and he's got like a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old. I said, what if your children were on the other end and they were going to crawl off and have sure death? Would you run across that board to save your children? And he said, yes, as most of us would, except for a doc I was coaching. I was doing a lecture in Ireland and I asked this question and he said, well, it depends on which of my kids. I got 5 of them. Some of them I probably wouldn't, some of them I probably wouldn't, which is a really funny story. But for most of us, the answer is yes. That's when the why is big enough. When the why is big enough, you'll make the how happen, right? It's such a powerful concept for us. Now, what I saw happen is he started to laugh. Then I know it gets to the subconscious. He started to laugh and he said, I get it. When my why is bigger than my fear, I'll start telling the truth. Got it. Got it. So here's the deal. I have a document called The Why Behind the How that I have all of my one-on-one coaching clients fill out. If you would like that document, I would be happy to send it to you. Just comment why below, and I will email it or I'll whatever it's called in these social media things, I'll get it to you. or just put your email and I'll email it to you. But it's a really, really wonderful document that, will help you start to clarify on a short version and a long version the why behind your house. So if you'd like that document, just go ahead and put why or me below, and I'll go ahead and get it to you. So I hope you found value in that. Look, if you're wanting to grow your practice, I've been doing this 25 years. You want to thrive in a care versus scare true optimal health model? I can help you do it. I really can. So hope you found value. As always, much love and aloha. Bye, gang.